Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salam alaikum. Welcome to the presentation part of Spiritual Saturdays of this week. Inshallah, today I'm trying to continue the discussion from previous session from last week. If you remember, last week we started our discussion about this idea that we form through our actions, we form ourselves, we form our personality, we form the person that we are. This was the discussion we had last week, and I will give a kind of review of that for people who may not have been with us last week. And so we'll start from there and then build on that. And I want to speak about the idea that even as a community, on a community level, the same is true. So, as you remember from all previous weeks, for this session, I usually turn the comments off. I deliver my presentation, and afterwards, we'll have, inshallah, our Q&A, and I will turn the comments on. So, last week, we spoke about this idea that insan, through every single decision that it makes, it's as if it adds something to itself. Right? It's forming itself, it's shaping its personality, shaping its identity, shaping its even, we can say to some degree, even changes its existence, right? So an example that can really make this clear, we spoke about, for example, a person who makes a promise, or a person who makes a decision that, you know what, from tomorrow, I'm not going to be performing this action, okay? Or for example, from tomorrow, I would like to wake up earlier. Let's say there's a person who wakes up at 11 o'clock at noon. So this person decides, you know what, from tomorrow, let me change this. I want to wake up earlier. I'm going to wake up at 9 o'clock. Now, tomorrow comes, 9 o'clock, the alarm rings, bring, 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 bring. Like, oh, you know what? I'm not bothered today. The hell with it. We'll start another day. He had decided to wake up at 9, and now it's 9 o'clock. The alarm is ringing. Bring, bring, bring. Wake up, wake up. Says, oh, the hell with it. Ding. Now, what this person may not realize, and this person could be any of us, we're really not judging. We all behave this way, is that as soon as you say the hell with it, you say no, you go against the decision you've made, you go against the promise you've made, you just make it harder for yourself to stay and to stick to your promises the next time, right? One of the things we discussed last week was this, that everything you do, even on a very biological level, a neurological level in your brain, it gets formed there, right? Every time you make a decision, it becomes easier to make that decision again next time, and also it makes harder to make the contrary decision, right? Basically, there's a neural pathway in your brain formed for that decision. So basically, when you make a decision to wake up at 9 and 9 o'clock, you say the hell with it, you just added a whole the hell with it circuit in your brain. And every time that you make a decision and then you say, you know what, the hell with it, I'll do it another time, I'll start tomorrow, that the hell with it circuit becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, to the extent that at some point you may find that you can't even stick to your words, stick to your promises. You say, I'm going to stop doing this, or I'm going to start doing that thing, but you can't. Now you feel like it, but when the moment comes to do it, it feels impossible. It's as if there's another force inside you that stops you from doing it, right? And it makes all sorts of justifications. Like, for example, you said, you know what, I'm going to be waking up early, but then when the morning comes, it's as if you're a different person with a different set of reasoning. Like last night, you made all of those good arguments. Well, it's going to help me regulate my mood. I'm going to have much more time to do my stuff. You know, I'm going to feel better. So you had all of these reasons why that's a good idea. But in the morning when you're sleepy, it's as if another set of reasoning. It's like another person with another set of arguments. You know what? I'm so tired. I deserve to sleep 2 more hours. I don't have much to do anyway. Last night I slept late, and tomorrow we can always start tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with starting tomorrow, right? It's as if it's a different person with a whole new set of arguments. So every time we go against, for example, what we wanted to do, that the hell with it circuit becomes stronger. Now, this is just one example, and this is true in almost everything in our life, right? What we do changes us that moment. And if we do something for a long time, it becomes part of who we are, and it may even become so difficult to get rid of it. And this can be even our fears, this can be our anger, right? There may be a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old who's a nice father, a nice mother, or a nice, for example, person at work, but he's got a terrible temper, right? And he may feel like, yeah, life did this to me, right? But there must have been certain decisions that slowly led to this. Now, this is, as we said, in everything. Whatever we do changes who we are. We kind of make ourselves. Now, I'm not saying this to attack us, by the way, because a lot of the times the reason we chose a decision or we went with one side is that we didn't have the strength to do the other side, or we didn't know better, or in fact, no one had even told us that if you do something, it literally becomes part of you, right? No one had explained this to us. No one had, for example, taught us that if you have a thought which is, for example, fearful, and learn not to engage with it, and every time you engage with it, it becomes difficult and more difficult not to engage with it. No one had taught us this, right? So I am really not trying to attack any one of us. In fact, we are all victims. We are all victims of a culture that didn't teach us one of the most important things about ourselves, and that is every time you do something, it becomes a little bit part of you. And if you do something for 4 years or 5 years, like engage with scary thoughts, they become part of you, and it becomes more difficult to get rid of them, although there are ways to get rid of it. But it becomes that much more difficult. And so you see that by the time people reach, for example, 40 years old or 50 years old or 60 years old, it's as if they've got fixed personalities and they think that that's fate or that's life. It's not. It could be changed. There were ways to change it when they were younger, and even now they can change it. It's just a little bit harder, right? But you see, you look around yourself, there are people with so many different personalities. There are some, for example, who get scared of deadlines. There are, for example, some who are angry towards their children. There are some people who cannot express their emotions. There are some people who may not be able to relate to their children. There are some people who, even though they love their partner, they can't not cheat. They feel weak in front of their temptations. They go and cheat. Or, for example, even if they don't cheat, they entertain fantasies which go against the nature of a loyal relationship, right? And all of these people may feel like, oh, how did this happen to me? Why did I become like this? Okay? And of course, because no one ever taught us, no one ever told us what a personality is, how it's formed, how every action we do leads to something growing in us. To the extent that we reach a place where Imam Sajjad says, Allahumma inni ashwi ilayka nafsan bisu'a amara wa ila khatiyati mubadara. God, I feel within me certain things have grown, which now force me to do bad things, and not sometimes it like order me to do bad things, and sometimes it's not ordering. They actually make me do things, right? There's part of me now, for example, that the hell with it circuit could become part of a person with addiction, and even if they make a promise to stop their addiction, they can't, because a part of them, they have added something to themselves. Now they make the decision to stop, but then within them there's another part that they have added and fed and grown all these years, which doesn't want to stop. That the hell with it. Now I'll start another day. I'll start tomorrow. That one can't. So they want to change, but there's something inside them which stops. Now, this was the discussion last week. Whatever we do changes the person we are. And if you look around you and there are people with so many different personalities, it's not that they had to be like that. It's that no one helped them. No one helped us. No one taught us that this is the case. So that's one thing. The second thing is that a lot of the times also we should know that it's not like we started something. It's very also possible that someone else, like an adult or a caretaker or someone in our environment when we were a child, they started a pattern in us that later on, because we didn't know how to deal with it, became part of our personality, right? So that's also another reason why we should not judge ourselves, why none of this is a blame, why none of this is an attack. We are all in it together, right? There's no reason to feel blame for something, because I want to mention two things which are so important for you to always have in mind for yourself and for your children. First thing, you always did the best you could with the knowledge you had, right? You always tried your best with the knowledge you had and with the strength you had. We may even have made mistakes, but we didn't know better, or we didn't have the strength. So now if I have a knowledge that I didn't have back then, I can't judge my past. Yes, maybe I made mistakes, and I have. Probably most of us have, right? There's no point in attacking yourself. All that matters is that now we decide to, as we said last week, to take responsibility for our life. And we said responsibility is not to accept blame. No, we're using responsibility very literally. Responsibility, the ability to respond, right? No matter whose decision or whatever led to this point in my life with this personality, I want to take the responsibility to fix this, to change this, right? And a good example to show you what I mean is that, let's say you were in an accident, right? And someone hit you. Someone hit you in an accident, you got really hurt, right? Are you responsible for this or not? Now, if you think responsibility is who to blame for this, you're like, no, of course I'm not responsible. That car hit me. Exactly, you're right, but that's not the responsibility I'm talking about. Forget about blame. I'm saying now you're hurt. Do you want to take charge? Do you want to have the ability to respond to this situation that right now you're hurt? Probably you will say yes, and most of the time you act as if you say yes. Why? Because no matter who hits you, even if they run away, you'll still want to take yourself to a hospital and get yourself checked, get yourself treated, right? No matter who did it, you still want to take control. I'm hurt. I can't lie down there and say, well, the person who did it has to come and fix me. No, if I want to do that, I'm going to bleed to death in the street, while people will probably be taking, like videos and put it on YouTube. So the responsibility, when we're talking about it, this is all we mean. The ability to respond. No matter who did it, I want to take control for my life, right? And now we'll come back to this idea in a bit when we start talking about the world and community, etc. But for now, we're talking at a personal level. We're saying, let's take responsibility for the person we've become. If we're angry, if we don't know how to argue, if we're shy, if we're scared, if we're confident, no matter what we are, whatever our weaknesses, our shortcomings are, let's take responsibility for it, not in the sense that we are to be blamed for it, because who cares about who's to be blamed at this stage? I always said, if someone shoots you in the arm, before we want to see who's responsible for that, my first priority is let's take the bullet out. Right? Is take the bullet out of your arm, and then we can talk who's to be blamed. So this is what we mean by responsibility. And we're building this idea that I want to have the ability to respond. I want to have the ability to take control of my life, to change my life, right? Because it's so empowering. Like, imagine if you're a person who thinks that way, my personality is fixed. Well, I'm just bad with children, or I just can't communicate with my partner, or I'm not a good grandpa, or I can't deal with pain, or I get scared, or whatever. If you want to accept that as a fate, that you cannot change it, what's the power there? How is that empowering? You're giving up on your life. You're giving up on who you are, which is a person that can change this world. And a great part of that is by changing ourselves. So tonight we're saying, see, beautiful soul that you are, we are not powerless in creating ourselves. Yes, a lot of who we are was done to us by other people. If, for example, as a child, you had parents that did not establish a good relationship with you, you may have an idea of relationships that are not safe. So you may, for example, even build walls around yourself. So maybe part of the reason you find it difficult to have good romantic relationships with your partner is the way you were treated as a child. Fair enough, I get that, right? You're not to be blamed for that. Maybe the reason, for example, you find it difficult to deal with your anger is that as a child, whenever you wanted to stand up for yourself, they said, no, don't do that, don't be angry. You know, they suppress your anger, so you never got the practice how to deal with your anger, right? Maybe the reason why right now you can't deal with your emotions, you are not very much connected to yourself, is that as a child, when you were scared or when you were worried, that your caretakers, instead of allowing you to experience that, allowing you to get familiar with your emotions, learning that emotions are part of life, they thought that the best way to help you is to distract you. And they said, oh, you're worried, let's buy you an ice cream. They distracted you from your emotions, so you got disconnected from your emotions, and now you're at a level 20, 30 years old, and you're like, I can't deal with the emotions, right? I get that. A lot of things could have happened to you and me, which we had no control over, right? Of course. Now what we're saying is that whether they did it or we did it, because a lot of the times we did stuff because we didn't know, right? As a teenager, maybe I didn't know that my behaviors right now are going to turn into very solid patterns which are so difficult to change. So as a teenager, maybe I chose a lifestyle thinking I could always change it, because as a teenager, I could change everything. So I thought if I live this way, I can always change it. But I didn't know that every action I'm taking, it's going to become part of myself. Every time I make a decision, a neural pathway created in my brain, it becomes that much harder not to do it the next time. I didn't know that. So maybe there are even parts of me, shortcomings, which I made it myself because I didn't know. Right? As a teenager, I did things which led to certain patterns which now I can't get out of. Maybe the reason why I find it so difficult to wake up in the morning is the way I lived as a teenager, because no one told me how you live right now is going to change who you are. Every day, the time you wake up changes you. And it's not easy to go back. No one told me that. So maybe part of the reason I'm like this is how I lived. Okay, whether it's other people, whether it's me in the past, right now, all that matters is that once I know this, that through my actions, I can change myself, I can form myself, now I am empowered. Why? Because if I got myself in this mess, or if other people got me in this mess through making me live in a certain way, now, by living in a different way, I can undo these things. Even though it's difficult, even though it's now, I have to maybe sometimes swim against the current, but it is possible, right? Every single thing about your personality, if it's making your life difficult, if you don't like it, can be changed. Every single thing, right? And this is very empowering to know. Yes, it may take time. Yes, you may need support. Yes, you may need help, but it's possible. You can do it, because insan, you create yourself. One of the things which I really loved, I was reading one of the books by Dr. Shariati. One of the beautiful things he said is that he said insan is one of the only creatures in this world whose creation is half done, right? It's not like insan is like for example, let's say a phone that comes out of the company, everything's fixed about it. It's got certain resolution, it's got certain battery life. No, even animals, once they come to this world, they're quite fixed, right? I've always said there's only a small, tiny room for a cow, for example, to have a personality, right? I personally, by the way, really love cows, one of my favorite animals, love their lifestyle, but a cow has a very limited room for a personality, right? For being different. Like I've always said, there's a very tiny difference between a simple-minded simpleton cow or a very sophisticated cow, right? But with insan, it's not the same. Insan gets to create itself. It's as if, for example, a half-written painting comes to the world, and then they tell the painting, draw the rest of the painting, right? That's what we are. We don't come to this world as a done painting. It's more like we come as a canvas with some brushes here and there. The family we're born into, the culture we have, the genes we get. There are some brushes, some strokes on the canvas, but the rest of it is up to us to form it. In son, you make yourself. You're not created fully yet. You create the rest. It's as if, like, imagine it's like halfway through the process of creation, you come to this world and they say, do the rest. It's very crazy. You create yourself, literally. And look at the people in their 50s and 60s. They have kind of a fixed personality. By that age, when they're 60, 70, it's as if their creation is almost done. They're you know, and who did that? They could change that. If someone gave them the right knowledge, the right tool, they could change the person they become, right? So this is a very important point that we needed to know when someone taught us about religion, but unfortunately it's left out. And it's very sad, because this is perhaps the most important knowledge that religion can carry on to us. That insan, this life is your opportunity to create whatever you want to be. Create yourself in the way you want to be, right? Now, religion was meant to do this for us, right? Imagine the adventure it sets. You know, insan, you can be whatever you like to be. You get to decide what's good. You get to think and discover what's good. Go on a journey. Discover what's the best form for you to become, right? Go on this adventure and figuring out what you should become, right? There's no fixed answers for you. Go on this adventure. You know, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim that we say in the prayer, God guide me to the right path. It doesn't mean that God keep me a Muslim. No, it means that insan, you're on a journey to make yourself. Now, what are you going to make? You've got the ingredients. You're going to make something. What do you want to make? Well, in order to understand what's the best thing you can make of yourself, you're going to be making so many decisions. Do I do this now or do I do that? Do I go in this path? Do I go in this path? Should I say this now? Should I be like this? Should I become like that? Should I be with these people? Should I support these people? Should I support this cause? Should I be like this with my friends? Should I be like that? How should I? You have so many things to figure out for that ideal version of yourself. So many questions to answer. It's an adventure. And that's why you need every day to ask God, show me the right path. That basically means, God, I want to make myself. Today, what's the decision for me? Which way should I go? And then that way, you would have seen that God talks to you directly in your heart. God sends you decisions. And this is why I am a little bit bitter with the way they taught religion to us. Because the way they taught religion to us takes all of this adventure away, right? It doesn't tell you, insan, you're here to create yourself. And then we'll talk later on that then you also go and create the world. That's your duty. But no, all it tells you that, hope, insan, you have come to this world to suffer. And while you are suffering, it is a test so that we can see if as you suffer, you still do your prayer and you do your wuzu and you fast. And if you do these three things, you fast, you take wuzu, and you pray, then you will go to heaven. See, where's the adventure in that? That's the most boring, adventureless, dull, numbing, against insan way of life you can imagine. You see, insan needs prayer when you want to go on a mission to make yourself, to make the world, to discover what you should become. You are an unwritten book, a half-made creation. You get to decide what you become. Do you want to be a grumpy this? Do you want to be a confident that? Do you want to be a scared this? Do you want to be that? What do you want to be? You get to figure that out. And it's only when you're on a mission like that that you need fasting, that you need prayer. Because prayer is a tool designed for a person on that mission. If you're not on a mission, what's the point of saying Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim? Right? That's why everyone's confused. They're like, well, if I have to fast and I have like these beliefs are enough for me to get, what is Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim? I've already found it, you know? Which right path? I'm already on it, which is what most people think. Right? So do you see what happened? They limited the scope of a person's spirituality and journey of life and the purpose of creation, all of that to what? Pray, fast. That's it. Whereas what they don't know is that every single decision you make in life, every single act is part of your spirituality. Your spirituality is basically you have a soul and a chance to create something with yourself. Go and do it, right? Prayer, fasting, all of that are tools you'll need if you're on this mission. If you're not, you won't feel the need for it. Okay, so it's an adventure, and let me read this for you. It's one of the part I've prepared for you to read for you, and basically what I want you to have in mind right now is that compare the idea I am sharing of what is Insan's role in this world, which is to take responsibility, make something of itself, and then we'll say of the world as well, to find, and then you'll see how many decisions you have to make, right? How many questions you have to figure the answers to, right? It's an every day you have to figure out what's the best way. How many hours should I talk to this person? What should I do? Should we think about this cause? Should we think about that problem? How do we treat these kind of people? How do we treat that? What is the best way to keep, for example, modesty? What's the best way to deal with social media? What's the best way to do this? What's the best way? Oh, so many challenges in life, so many questions, which is so interesting to go and figure out. But that's one way of looking at life. Another life is this. No, all the questions are answered. There's nothing for you to figure out. Just buy a book called, for example, Risale. All the answers you need in life are there, right? How should we deal with social media? Let's go and ask the scholars. Baba, how do the scholars know? Social media is such a new phenomenon. You have to go figure it out yourself. Yes, they can guide you. Yes, they can help you. But this is for you to figure out. Right? No. All the answers are already ready. If we just call the office of that scholar, we can figure it out. There's no adventure there. All the questions are already answered. Someone else is telling you what to do in your life. This is how much you do this. This is what you do. This is that. For you, that's it. Do these things. Forget about the rest of your life. The rest of your life has nothing to do with your spirituality. Isn't that what they say? If you, for example, do this, do that, that's it. Focus about these 4 or 5 actions, pay this amount of money every year, and then the rest of your life, it's up to you. Do whatever you want. Bobo, it's an adventure, it's a journey, right? Now, if that's the case, if they are the ones who are going to give you all the answers, why would you even need a direct line of communication with God? Why would you need a fitra, right? If all the answers in the world are given, for example, in the book that a person has written, or that scholar in that office knows them, why would you ask God, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, God, show me the right path? Why would you have a fitra to tell you what's the right thing to do? Well, they've already told you the right thing, right? So slowly, with that understanding of religion, the person gets disconnected from their fitra because they have no opportunity to practice it. Every single decision is made for you. This is how you treat the other gender. This is how you study. This is what you do. 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 Okay, then why on earth do I need a fitra? Right? Why do I need God to show me the truth? Why would God directly talk to me? Which Imam Hussein says God does that. Now, let me read this for you. I can trust my experience. One of the basic things which I was a long time in realizing, and which I'm still learning, is that when an activity feels as though it is valuable or worth doing, it is worth doing. Put another way, I have learned that my total organismic sensing of a situation is more trustworthy than my intellect. This is something I want to talk to you about tonight. Once you realize that in this life there are so many unanswered questions, so many things for you to figure out. Imagine they tell you you are responsible to turn what you are right now into the most beautiful, amazing thing that you can think of for the world, right? Imagine They say the world right now, imagine the situation of the world. Now we want your opinion, no one else's, your opinion on what this person that you are should become to have the best impact for the person itself, for its family, for the community, for its world. Wow, that's such a challenge, that's such a puzzle, that's such an adventure to figure out. What should I become that would be the best for myself, my family, and the world? So many answers I need. You have to figure that out. And what should you rely on? This is where you need the fitra. This is where God directly talks to you, right? In every decision, in every corner, there's part of you that tells you which way you should go. Oh, this feels right. Maybe I need to support this cause. Maybe I need to support it this way. Maybe I need to talk with this person. Maybe I need to join this group. Maybe I need to change this about myself. Maybe this is wrong. Maybe this is, there's part of you that guides you towards this. Right? It's only when you start taking life this way that you'll start connecting to your fitra, you start feeling God's guidance right away. There's a verse in the Quran in which God says we give every person guidance directly. But most people turn away from it. Why? Because they don't feel they need it. Right? Well, the books have already all the answers. Now here it says that one of the things, by the way, this is by Carl Rogers. It says one of the things I started realizing is that I need to trust this thing inside me that sometimes gives me a feeling of what I should do. Because as I said, you're the one who's meant to decide what you should become. And on the day of judgment, God says in the Quran, you don't get to say, God, I made myself like this because scholars told me this is a good way to become. No. God says, I don't want any other person's ideas. Even if you listen to a scholar, it should only be after you feel like it's a good thing listening to them in this regard. If in another regard you feel like you have an opinion which seems more right, you have to go with that. Right? Because at the end of the day, God says, see, I don't care about anyone else's opinion with regards to you. With regards to every single person, I only care about themselves. Why did you do this to yourself? Why did you make this? God says, didn't I give you these feelings that you should have become like that? You felt it, you wanted, you were excited to do this. You were excited to go this way, but then you didn't because someone said no. God says, why? Why? So this part I'm reading to you is about trusting the fitra inside, trusting that you have a moral compass inside that can show you making thousands of decisions that you have to make every month to become the person you want to become. All of my professional life, I have been going in directions which others thought were foolish, and about which I've had many doubts myself. But I have never regretted moving in directions which felt right, even though I've often felt lonely or foolish at the time. Because as I said, most of the people don't want to go on this adventure. They just want to listen to other people. What do you think I should become? And if you want to go that way, people have ideas about every aspect of your life, from which type of socks you need to wear, how your hair should look like, what kind of dresses you should wear, what you should do with your life, how you should travel. People have answers for all of that. If you want to listen to them, they won't even leave you 1 ounce of control over your life. So if you want to go, and most people go that way, because no one has spoken to them about this adventure of making yourself, you and God. It's a journey between you and God, you and your fitra. If others understand you, perfect. If not, who cares? It's an adventure. So I have never regretted moving in directions which felt right, even though I've often felt lonely or foolish at the time. I have found that when I have trusted some inner non-intellectual sensing, I have discovered wisdom in the move. In the fact, I have found that when I have followed one of these unconventional paths, because it felt right or true, then in 5 or 10 years, many of my colleagues have joined me, and I no longer need to feel alone in it. It's very interesting. It's saying that there were a lot of times that I felt like my community, my group, this was about psychologists, they wanted me to be that way, to follow that path. But I said, no, even as a psychologist, I don't like some of the ideas you're discussing. I want to discuss this. I want to discuss it this way. See, so it's not just about religion. In every setting, it could happen. Even you can go to academia and you feel like, no, the way you want to do it is different to other people. Now, the interesting thing is this. He's saying that every time I decided to go with what I wanted to do, with what I felt was right, Not only I didn't regret it, but in 5 or 10 years, all the people who were telling me don't do it actually started doing what I did as well, right? Because that's the truth. They can only deny it when no one's tried it, right? Because you're bringing something original, something authentic, something godly to the world. Once you haven't done it, they can stop you. But once you bring something original, something authentic, something beautiful out in the world, no one can deny it. So they'll start copying you as well. And God, I have so many examples of this. So many examples of this, right? Even in religion, a person wanted to explore, for example, a certain idea. So many other people said, no, don't do this, don't do this. But once that person explored it, they wrote a book about it, everyone started loving it, their relationship with God became better. The same people who told them don't, they started saying, no, this is a book we support, this is a book. Yeah. Just think of, for example, one of the best books of tafsir right now we have, especially in the Shia world, is Al-Mizan by Allama Tabatabai. Right now, if you ask many of the Shias, for example, they say, no, even in the Shia world, we have tafsir. Look at the tafsir of Al-Mizan, right? They forget that when he was writing it, no one was supporting him. They forget that when he was writing it, how much they hurt him, how much they tried to stop him, how much they isolated him, right? Allama Tabatabai, they wouldn't even let him teach. Imagine. Who didn't let him teach? Was it the non-religious people? No, the other scholars in the town. He was, for example, teaching a certain class. They were so scared that others may judge them. Other scholars, that they would hide it under, for example, something. Right? And I'm saying you can be Allama Tabatabai, that high in knowledge, but still there would be some people, some religious scholars or some people or whatever, that would try to push you away from what you think inside is right. But once you do it, because Allama didn't care about them, he continued, he wrote his book, he wrote Al-Mizan, he taught the classes he taught. Once you do it, then you add something to the world, which is so beautiful. The same people who were stopping you, now they have no option but to praise it, you know? The same people now say, oh wow, Al-Mizan is such a great book. Yeah. It's always like that. It's always like that. خب. As I gradually come to trust my total reactions more deeply, I find that I can use them to guide my thinking. It's about this idea that, look, there are so many different models of thinking about this. At the time he was writing this book, he's phrased it between my intellectual understanding and what my whole body thinks. Now we have better models of thinking about this. But the whole idea is this. There's ideas people have built into your mind of what is right or wrong, or there's a sense you get yourself. It's a very deeper sense of what's right and wrong that sometimes goes against what others have told you. He says, as I gradually come to trust my total reactions more deeply, this inner sense, I find that I can use them to guide my thinking. I have come to have more respect for those vague thoughts which are carrying me from time to time, which feel as though they were significant. You know, every now and then you get a feeling, oh, maybe this is the right thing. And sometimes it's not even articulate. It's not like a sentence. It's not like a fully formed idea of what you should do. It's just a feeling to go towards a certain direction, to explore certain things. And we often ignore this. And it could be in so many ways. Like one of the ways, let me give you a personal example. One of the ways I keep getting these feelings is that as men in some of the, for example, Muslim communities, we are oppressing women. Not I'm saying in a, for example, abuse, etc. That inshallah no one does that, although unfortunately some people do that. No, but I mean even in the way responsibilities in the house are understood, even in the way duties in relationship, a lot of the times I get this feeling that, oh, this just doesn't feel right. I'm not happy with this, right? But then, even I remember when I was in the classes, we're discussing the rulings, etc. The ideas were, no, this is it. This is what's truth. This is what God wants, right? As if they know what God wants. But inside, it's like, no, this just doesn't feel right. This just doesn't feel like. This feels like, for example, parts of it, it's one-sided. And at these stages, it's so easy to sacrifice this feeling you have, to shut it down, in the favor of this idea in your head that no, this is what God wants, this is what religion says, right? And imagine if on the day of judgment, God says, for example, Javad, didn't you feel that this is unfair? Why didn't you do something about it? You know? Who gave you the permission to go against what you felt inside that this is unfair? Even no matter what they claimed, oh, this is in the name of God. Well, you felt it's unfair. What's more true than your inner thing that this is unfair? If you're the one who's gaining from this and you also think this is unfair, well, something needs to be wrong. You know? And I felt how a lot of people, I remember when we were, for example, going through our fiqh classes, a lot of people got these senses, but they ignored them. And in fact, there's a verse in the Quran that says, we give them guidance and they turn away from it, right? Well, yes, so many people got this feeling that this is unfair. They didn't listen to it. They suppressed it. And especially if they're men, it could also be that it's even better for them. It's more comfortable to ignore that feeling because right now they may get services which otherwise they have to let go of, right? So I'm telling you, it's even like this, that sometimes you get these feelings, but there are so many ideas in your mind which are against it. Here it says, know which one to trust. Trust the inner guidance, right? Imagine if more people were like this. We didn't have this much nonsense that we have right now in this world. In so much oppression, a lot in other names, but also even in the name of religion, in the name of God. Honestly, I feel like the most madloom being in the world is God. They do things that he hates in his name to his people. Imagine oppressing God's beautiful souls in the name of God. That's so unjust, so unfair to both people and God. I don't know if I should read a little bit more. It's so nice. I really feel like it's good to continue. So a few more minutes, I'll just 2 more paragraphs I'll read for you, and then we can maybe go towards Q&A. Very closely related to this idea is that evaluation by others is not a guide for me, right? So far we said, instead of believing in the ideas that others have told us of what you should be, etc., I want to trust my inner guide, my fitra, the guidance God sends me. And now, how other people evaluate my life, that's not going to be a guide for me. I'm not going to live my life based on their evaluation of me. Okay. The judgments of others, while they are to be listened to, it's not like I ignore what you have to say. No, I listen to everyone. الَّذِينَ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقَوْلَ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ. I listen to everyone. Even if, for example, they told me this is wrong, I'll listen to. Maybe they have something that I would like to learn from, right? So while they are to be listened to and taken into account for what they are, can never be a guide for me. At the end of the day, I am the one who makes the final decision, right? Every single soul in this world has to make the final decision for themselves. This has been a hard thing to learn. I remember how shaken I was in the early days when a scholarly, thoughtful man who seemed to me a much more competent and knowledgeable psychologist than I told me what a mistake I was making by getting interested in psychotherapy. Now he's mentioning an example in his own life that someone he really respected, really looked up to, told him, you know what, there's no point in you becoming a psychotherapist. Now imagine, to who? Carl Rogers, who changed psychotherapy, right? They told him it's a mistake. It could never lead anywhere. And as a psychologist, I would not even have the opportunity to practice it. In later years, it has sometimes jolted me a bit to learn that I am, in the eyes of some others, a fraud, a person practicing medicine without a license, the author of a very superficial and damaging sort of therapy, a power seeker, a mystic, right? He says, because I didn't go with the life they wanted me to go, they've labeled me all different ways. Oh, you're a power seeker, you're this, you're that, you're superficial, you're a fraud. But I have not been too much concerned because I have come to feel that only one person, at least in my lifetime and perhaps ever, can know whether what I am doing is honest, thorough, open and sound, or false and defensive and unsound. And that person is me, right? It says at the end of the day, people may say, you're this, you're fraud, you're weak, right? Even, for example, right now, if you want to, for example, defend the rights of women, a lot of people may come and say, oh, that's because your lack of faith. You lack loyalty to religion. You lack loyalty to the word of God, right? Believe me, all sorts of labels are going to be thrown at you when you want to follow your inner guidance, right? But he's saying at the end of the day, only one person can know if those are true or not, and that's yourself. And I've said a lot of the times, I look inside and see, no, I love religion, but this part of it that you're telling me is unfair. And no matter how much I look inside, I don't feel this is out of weakness. In fact, if I accept this, it makes my life more difficult because I have to let go of some of my privileges, right? Now, you make whatever judgments you want about me. At the end of the day, there's one person who knows whether I'm honest or not, and that's me. And that's true for every single one of us. At the end of the day, we are the only one who can know whether the decisions we're making are either out of a desire or a shortcoming, or no, is real true guidance, a real feeling that we feel inside that this is the correct way to go. Right? And we are open to other people's ideas. We may be wrong, right? But we are the ones at the end of the day that make decisions. All right, I think let's stop here. Now, I want to also speak a little bit about how then we need to take this understanding to the next level in the same way that we are responsible for ourselves, creating ourselves, and by responsible, we said the ability to respond. I wanted to take it to the next level, and inshallah, maybe we can talk about it in another week. I'll just mention it briefly. In the same way, we are responsible for the creation of the world as well. And by responsible, I mean we need to have the ability to respond. And again, this is another part in which so many ideologies or so many understandings of religion try to kill in you. You know what, if you just pay the homes, if you just, for example, do this, that's it, let go of the world. Whereas you and me, we are part of our adventure is to create the world in the way that we think it's the best for it, right? And in fact, so the reason why so many of us feel like our life doesn't have meaning is that we're a person, we're a soul with so much potential, such a large adventure to go and change the world, create the world with the ideas we have inside, right? Imagine you are built for such a crazy mission. But then this understanding of religion tells you, nah, forget about it. Stay at home and pray and fast and tell your children to memorize Quran. That's it. You're a good person. So all that energy that you have inside is using for the smallest task, and you feel like something doesn't feel right. You know? You feel like life is meaningless. You feel bored. Life is dull. Yes, because you're not built for this dull life. You're built for a huge adventure. You're built for being God's Khalifa on God, but now they're using you like I don't want to say a word because it will be just rude words are coming to my mind, you know. But a non-rude example would be, imagine if you're Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi, the best football player in the world. That's what you're built to be at the highest level, right? And then they're telling you to, okay, go play football with the toddlers or go play football in a nursery. Imagine Cristiano Ronaldo with all that talent playing in a nursery. Obviously, he's going to feel like life is meaningless. Why do I need these muscles? Why do I need to be able to jump 2 meters up, he would say, when I'm playing against toddlers? This doesn't make sense. This is pointless. This is boring, which is exactly what they're doing to us. People who are meant to make decisions for the world, to decide how the world should be run, are told that no, all the answers, we already have them. You just please pray, do this, pay a little bit, and that's it, you're done. We don't need your thoughts, we don't need your ideas. All the answers, we have them, alhamdulillah. Just come to us at the right time or write an email, we'll give all the answers to you, right? Whereas what I want to tell you is that we don't even have 20% of the answers for what we should do in this world. There are so many challenges. Right? I've always said Islam didn't come to give us all the answers for the rest of the world. No, Islam came to create people who are so amazing that they can find the answers for the problems of the world. If Quran wanted to give us all the answers, what was the point of us? If we just had to follow a prescription that said, do this, do this, do this, do this, what was our journey? What was our adventure? No. Islam says, see, I will create a kind of person out of you that you can figure out how to solve the problems of the world. You can fix it. You. Right? I will change you, then you yourself become a kind of person whose ideas will fix this world. Imagine the adventure on that. Imagine how serious then you'll take yourself, how important you are, right? And then you look at the world and you see what mess we are in right now, and you wonder why. Because most of the people who have to change it, whose ideas we need, are being told that all the answers are already there.